warming bracket.
What's going on, everyone? So welcome to my latest video. This is, of course, part of a series where I focus on a specific director and rank that director's work from worst to best. I've done such directors in the past, such as David Lynch, David Fincher, Wes Anderson. The list goes on. You can check that out down below. But obviously, guys, you clicked on this video, so you know it. This time around, it is Kevin Smith's films ranked worst to best. And he's done 13 films as of the filming of this video, so I decided to do it where 13 is his worst, 1 is his best, and of course, my opinion. Obviously, I'm going to be very curious to hear your guys' thoughts on your ranking list for his work, so do that down below. But guys, enough exposition. Let's kick things off with number 13, going down to 1. So, kicking off with number 13 is Yoga Hosers. This was the latest film of his that I actually had seen. This movie was very hard to track down, and for good reasons. It's not a good movie. It is essentially a movie that seems like Kevin Smith filmed over Thanksgiving, which I guess is fine for a family movie, you know, in terms of like, you know, something you pick up in the archives, but to show the entire world just didn't work, man. I didn't like this movie. That's why it's number 13. Next up, number 12 is Jersey Girl, which was his attempt at doing like romantic comedy and just didn't work. Very forgettable, honestly. I watched it at the beginning of the pandemic and barely remember any of it. Next up, that was number 12. Next up is number 11. Number 11 is Cop Out, which I actually watched as a double header at the beginning of the pandemic along with Jersey Girl. And Cop Out, I think, is a little bit better, but not by much, honestly. It's a very cringe-worthy movie. It's obviously, as you can probably guess, like a cop comedy. Just did not work. The comedy fell very flat, unfortunately. Honestly, if I didn't know that it was a Kevin Smith comedy because of, you know, wanting to rank his work, I wouldn't have known this was his film because it doesn't have any of his trademarks. It's not a good movie, unfortunately. That's why it's number 11. Next up, number 10 is Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. This movie I actually saw in theaters, and I did not like it. I found it to be very disappointing, very dull, repetitive, unfunny, unfortunately. I don't know if maybe at the time of viewing this movie, maybe I just outgrown his shtick, but it just did not work for me. It felt like a rehash of all his other ideas. But yeah, I mean, it's not terrible, but it's just very middle of the road, unfortunately. And at times it was very frustrating to watch. But yeah, that's my number 10. Next up, number 9 is Mallrats, which it's okay. Not much else to say. I mean, it's okay. It has its moments of comedy. I liked that it ties into his universe that he created, but not much really else to say about Mallrats. I get why it has a following, but for me, just okay. So that's my number 9. Next up, my number 8 is Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. This movie was very entertaining. Definitely had a lot more humor, and especially compared to the other entries I just listed, this one actually works pretty well. It's not amazing. It definitely is a little bit more than passable, but it's not something that's like top tier comedy for sure. But it is something that it is a nice vignette of, you know, things that occur. Would I watch it again? I don't quite know, but it is definitely something I would say give it a watch because it does have its moments for sure. So that's my number 8. Next up, my number 7 is Dogma, which was very controversial when it came out. It is kind of hard to find, but at the same time, when you actually track down it and watch it, it's pretty entertaining. It's pretty funny, honestly. And it's kind of hard to believe that it is controversial, or was, I should say, when it came out, because it's very tame by today's standards. But it still is entertaining, and it works in his shtick, his wheelhouse for sure. Kevin Smith, that is. But yeah, it's my number 7. Next up, number 6 is Chasing Amy, which I thought was good when I saw it, but I can't lie, the more I think about it, the more I see it is problematic. I get with when it was coming out, you know, there were certain things that obviously I don't really quite know how to explain it without spoiling anything, which obviously I don't want to. But I will say Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, as much as I didn't like the movie, I did like the fact that they addressed Chasing Amy's one problematic thing that was going on in the movie. But yeah, I mean, this movie, I think it's better than all these other ones, though, because there is a lot of conviction with Kevin Smith. I mean, he definitely wanted to get like across a lot of things with this movie, and he had a lot to say. Again, some of it hasn't aged well, some of it is problematic, but I do think that it was definitely a film where he had a voice, and he definitely wanted to make it heard. And, you know, for better or worse, it worked. Just, you know, obviously has some issues for sure. So that's my number 6. Next up, number 5 is Zack and Miri Make a Porno. This movie I had heard about for the longest time, but truth be told, I did not know it was a Kevin Smith movie. But after watching, I could definitely tell it was a Kevin Smith movie because it has his signature shock humor that worked very well in this movie. Chemistry between the two leads is great. Seth Rogen did a really good job, I think. Yeah, it's entertaining. I think it's rock solid. So that's one number 5. Next up, we get to the top 4. And these 4, you're in for a treat, guys. Number 4 is Tusk, which is a very, very original film. That alone is why this movie is up higher on the list because it's very original, it's very out there, it is completely fine with being strange, and I think it works very well. I really dug this movie when I saw it. I would highly recommend people to watch this movie and go into it not knowing anything the way I did because to watch it once is to always remember it. No doubt about it. That's why it's my number 4. Next up, number 3 is Clerks 2, which I think is very, very funny. I think that a lot of the humor works. I think that, don't get me wrong, some of it hasn't aged the best, but I do think for the most part it works really well. I think it's hilarious. I've seen it a couple times, and I have laughed a lot at the humor. It works very well. So that's my number 3. Next up, number 2 is Red State, which, similar to Tusk, I had no idea what it was about. I didn't. All I knew was the front cover. That was it. So seeing Red State the first 25 minutes, I was like, this is just okay. And then after the first 25 minutes, I was hooked, line and sinker, the remaining 60 or so minutes. That was just incredible. The change of tone that Kevin Smith did, it was amazing. I really dug it. I'm looking forward to rewatching this movie. Similar to some of Kevin Smith's other movies, this movie's kind of hard to find. I mean, I would be more than happy to own it on Blu-ray, but it's like $40 to buy on Blu-ray right now. I'm just like, no, I like the movie, but not $40 worth. But it changes genres, and I think that it just worked really well with what it changed into for me personally. I definitely think it's one of his better movies, and I think I'm in a minority when saying that, but I don't care. I think it was a good movie, honestly. That's my number 2. Next up, number 1 is the movie that was very inspirational for filmmakers, and to this day is very inspirational for filmmakers, and that's number 1, Clerks. Clerks is a movie made on a shoestring budget that somehow was able to get the Weinstein brothers on board, which, obviously I'm not a fan of the Weinstein brothers in terms of their personal life, but we all know how in the 90s they were really able to finance a lot of people into stardom. Kevin Smith was no exception. In fact, he was definitely one of the big 3 that had it where, because of the Weinsteins, he was able to make it into stardom. And Clerks is an exception. I mean, it was shot on black and white on a shoestring budget, and it ended up being a huge success and catapulted Kevin Smith into what we know as today. So it's great to see Clerks, honestly, because Clerks, for myself, I used to work at a convenience store, and when I saw Clerks, I worked at a convenience store, so Sunoco, so it was just very relatable. I'm looking forward to rewatching it. I haven't really come across it. I believe it's on HBO Max now, so I do need to watch it a second time. But it's getting the number 1 slot alone for the fact that it had an impact on me when I saw it. My first year of college, as well as just overall the impact it had on the film industry. I think that it was definitely a film that changed a lot, for better or worse. So that's my ranking list, guys, and I do like to talk about the director for a little bit after my ranking. Kevin Smith. I think Kevin Smith is hit or miss. I think that sometimes he misses, unfortunately. Sometimes he just provides an okay movie, but when he hits, like with Tusk or Red State or the Clerks movies, it really hits, man. It really works. And I like the fact that an everyday person like Kevin Smith was able to break into stardom. People know Kevin Smith. People know his style. They know that he created a universe before the MCU. So it's great to see him, honestly. And he's like a very chill guy. He's a very chill director. Is he an amazing director? No. But I do have a lot of respect for him, and I'm very glad that he became famous because, he has a voice to be heard. And I'm very curious to see where he's going to be going with the rest of his career. Lately, I've noticed it seems like he's been more geared towards family, having family members in his movies, specifically in lead characters. And the last couple of movies of his just haven't really worked for me. But you know what? I mean, people change, and I'm hoping that he does kind of progress as a filmmaker. But as it stands, will I watch a Kevin Smith movie when, the next one comes out? Absolutely. He's a director that I greatly admire, even if I don't fully embrace, his entire filmography, obviously. But, guys, that's my Kevin Smith, ranking list. Let me know your ranking list down below for his work down below. And as always, the description, notification, and I'll catch you guys later.